you can beat Stremme.
Well, I'm just
You can take Stremme
from the overall outlook of the.
He's a hack. All right, welcome to the race preview edition of the Rowdy.com Big Three. We're going to take a look at Richmond with our good friend JJ Yeley.
Hello, how you doing?
Real live race car driver. I'm Buzz Cutler. One of my favorite tracks, my home track for many years because I'm from Central Virginia. How do you like racing at Richmond?
I love it. Wait, let me go back here. Richmond is home for you, and you're not going.
I'm not going because I'm going on vacation with my wife. Now, come on, you understand that.
No.
There's a point where your wife becomes your roommate, and you need to counteract that as quickly as you can. So we're going on vacation, and I will miss Richmond this year. I'm bereft, Richmond. I'm sorry.
I love Richmond. Richmond is one of those racetracks that races as a short track. Obviously, it's a short track, but it races more almost like a mile and a half. Just the shape of the racetrack being different, being D-shaped, carries a lot of speed. You'll see a lot of two-car racing action. Not a lot of contact on it, and I think that's why it doesn't race like a typical short track. It's fun to me because you're not always stuck on the bottom groove. It's one of those times when your race car starts to get a little bit tight, you can move up to the middle. When you start going through 3 and 4 especially, you get right up against the fence. So
you talked about 3, 4. Coming off of 1 and 2, that can be kind of tricky. Don't you start to drift towards the wall coming off 2?
It is very tricky, usually because, and this is the difference between the two corners. Once you come off of turn 2, the lower you can stay, there's a little bit more banking, so it helps hold the race car. The problem you run into 1 and 2, because it's D-shaped, when you come off of turn 2, the fence really jumps out at you, and you lose banking really fast off of turn 2 also. Because the guys usually run higher in 3 and 4 than they do in turns 1 and 2, you get a lot more rubber buildup along the edge of the racetrack. So you got to watch that you don't get those right sides in there because you're definitely going to knock the right side of your race car off once you get to the exit there. So it's definitely tough getting off of turn 2. It's one of those places where you can gain or lose a bunch of speed in a hurry.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that famous incident between Kyle Busch and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was coming off of turn 2. So you say it's a short track that kind of races like a downforce track. Are there any other tracks out there that you would compare Richmond to, a point of reference? I mean, I guess not New Hampshire, not Phoenix. They're a little too flat. What's Richmond like in terms of other tracks, or is it just its own animal?
No, I think Richmond is definitely its own animal. Because it is a 3/4 mile racetrack, it kind of fits in the middle from a speed-wise, from a banking standpoint. It's a racetrack that's tough to get your car to do what you want it to do. It's very easy to make the car loose into turn 1, which is definitely very dangerous because it's the fastest part of the racetrack. Then because you carry so much speed, trying to get the car to turn in the center, also very tough to do. And then all of a sudden you can make your car do those two things, then you don't have forward bite to get off the corner. So it's really a matter of you have to figure out what you want your car to do best and then kind of fake the other parts of the corner just because I don't think it's physically possible to get a car 100% perfect at a place like Richmond because both ends of the racetrack are so different from each other. The banking's different that you're going to have one part of your corner that you're always going to hate.
So it sounds like, not like Pocono, but almost like you have to pick which end of the racetrack you want to set up for and just compromise on the other end.
Well, just the characteristic of your car, because you're not going to be able to make it really stable on entry. You're not going to be able to make it really turn great in the center and still carry forward bite off on the exit. So you're either going to have a car that turns really good that's going to be loose on exit. You're going to be sliding all over the place. You're going to have a car that's really solid on exit that's going to push like a dump truck through the center of the corner. I just don't think there's any time that you're going to get your car perfect to where it's going to do everything you want it to do.
What's interesting about Richmond, you look at the guys who are consistently in contention there. Guys like Denny Hamlin, who you think of maybe as more of a flat track kind of guy. Guy like Dale Jr., who you think, okay, he can get it done on short tracks. He's a good short track racer. Kyle Busch. It seems like each of these guys has a different style or excels at different types of racetracks, yet they all sort of are good at Richmond. What are the characteristics that a driver needs in order to be successful at Richmond International Raceway?
Well, I think the most important thing is you have to know what you want out of your race car because you usually have a lot of green flag runs there. Track position is very, very critical. You can't afford to have one bad pit stop or one bad run because you lose so much track position. You usually don't make it back up. So as a driver, the guys you're mentioning, they know exactly what they want their car to feel like. They can help the crew chief out when they make those changes because usually a race at Richmond it's a really long race to drive. and the car will change so much from the start of the race because you usually start, the sun is still up, to when we finish, it's dark, the racetrack is completely different. And sometimes that transformation from sunlight to the nighttime, you just don't keep up with your changes. And those guys are really good about knowing what they want in their feel. They can almost stay ahead of the changes in the racetrack. They keep out front, and like I said, track position is really huge at Richmond.
All right. Is there a guy out there that you think is really good at Richmond who you watch in practice, who you say, okay, I see what they're doing, that maybe fly under the radar for the general fan? Who do you like at Richmond that's not Kyle Busch or Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Denny Hamlin or Jimmy Johnson?
And one of the guys you haven't mentioned, who's obviously a chase contender, is Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer is really good there. Kevin Harvick, obviously,
Right.
The RCR guys are really good there. But, I know that Clint runs really well there. This might be his week that he's going to break out and get a win. Obviously, the RCR team of the whole entire group have been really strong all year long. Obviously, Paul Menard deserves a lot of kudos because he's been doing really, really good.
Is he
over
the
there.
real deal? Is Paul Menard the real deal?
I mean, it's pretty obvious that he is.
That's what I said.
You look at last year. I know he started out really strong, and then they as the year changed, they weren't able to keep up as much. And I don't know that's all because it's not so much about Paul. It's just a matter of, this sport evolves so fast that, a setup that worked at the beginning of this year that could sit on the pole, you could go back for the fall race and qualify 20th with the same exact thing. So sometimes it's just a matter of the team evolving. But, obviously they've got things figured out over there.
All right. JJ Yeley helping us understand Richmond International Raceway a little bit better. I'm glad it's a raceway and not a speedway. I prefer raceway to speedway.
It's not big enough to be a speedway.
Well, okay. Well, never mind that. All right. Thanks. We'll see you again on Monday where we're going to talk about everything that happened at Richmond.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.